What's going on, you beautiful people? Today we're going to be talking about how to get Tel Var. Is it worth it? And in general, what my thoughts are on this bad mamma jamma. So firstly, I have some gameplay of me and the idiots running around and attempting to do different methods to get Tel Var. And my overall thoughts are, if you want to just immediately know if this is a good gold making method, is that it is not. At best, you're probably going to be making 50 to 60K an hour if you're doing it well in a loop solo and you don't get murdered or PK'd or you don't accidentally die to a flag boss. And at worst, you're probably only going to be making like 20K. So it's, for the amount of alertness that it requires, I really don't see it being that worth it. But it is a fun little area. It's a fun place to get key fragments. It's fun if you want to fight some people. So my general tips are you have to look at this in one of two ways. You either have to look at this in building a character that's ready for PvP or a character that's going to be utilized in a PvE fashion. What does that mean? Well, it means that my character is currently wearing Mother Sorrow Medusa with the kilt, with one piece of slime crawler, which means I'm set up to just blow up all the mobs and run through and kill the mobs. But if I have to face a player, I ain't equipped for it. My only goal is to get away. Now, the other way you could look at this is to say, okay, I'm going to go kill these players. I'm going to wear some PvP sets and bank on them either being a worse player than I am or wearing PvE sets. That's the other way you can look at this. And so you can kind of build your character either way. There's two problems with both of those things. One is that there's a lot of PvP players, so you're not going to just be able to avoid them at peak hours. We were doing this on Friday. We kept constantly running into people. And the other problem is if you're dressed for PvP, half the time when you kill someone, you're getting like 100 Tel Var crystals. So you really have to kind of factor all these things when you want to figure out what is the best way to grind this Tel Var. Now, that doesn't mean it's impossible. It just means that it is very difficult to like walk this fine line of not getting murdered or being the murderer, but figuring out how you can kill people and still make some sort of decent profit. That's going to be the difficult part for you. But, so on screen, this is the 3 loops that you can run in the sewers. Now, the sewers, I would say, is more recommended for stealthier classes, although stealthy classes will do well in both. And classes who are very mobile, like the Sorcerer. Honestly, any class that really wants to just fight in a tight quarters with a lot of like ability to kind of get away and go different directions and things. The survivability is much higher in the sewers than it is on the top. You will run into the flag boss, and that will be an issue. But if you can avoid that, you'll do fine. Now, if you do go to the surface, my recommendation to you would be to try to find a small group to kill the overworld bosses, or do what we do in the clips, or at least try to, depending on which part of the clips I actually save and put in this, because it was an interesting day, is actually go and loot the chests, the reward chests for doing some of the quick time events in the open world area, the surface. I would say that's probably your best bet. Now, Ree stayed in the actual sewer compartment that was, right above our alliance. You don't have to do that. I just did it so that if we needed to leave quickly, we would be on the side of the sewers that we were used to. Like, we knew where we were, so it was easy for us to say, okay, we're going to go in this passageway, and then run back to the base here real quick. Mobility is very good if you have the ability to use any sort of mobility pieces, like Streak is really good here. If you have the ability to use channeled acceleration, if you have any sort of class abilities that make you faster, it is a godsend when it comes to this, because you'll be very slow otherwise, and most players will be using those gap closers on you. So I highly recommend that, at least for mobility's purposes. Because even if you're built for PvE, you don't have to fight everyone. As long as you're confident enough in your ability to run away, you'll be fine. Or at least hold your own, you'll be fine. And that's why, as a vampire too, you can sprint to stealth, which is also very easy to run the Imperial City sewers with. Now, what are some other things to know? So, the more Tel Var crystals you have on you increases the buff up to 4 times. So 10,000 crystals gives you the 4 times buff. That's the maximum that you can have. So that means that if you wanted to start off, you could give yourself 10,000 Tel Var crystals and then start running and doing activities with that and start running these routes. Is that a good way to go? I would say that it is, except that if you die, you're going to be losing a flat 50%. So you can lose more money than you start with, which if you look at other like gold making methods, you know, it starts to get a little iffy if it's worth it or not. So the total numbers that we were able to accomplish in this period is it's between a couple things that we found of value. So intricate weapons, obviously, and ornate, which quicksold all that mumbo jumbo. That gave us a little bit of value. We have the key fragments, which run decently well, about 150 gold per, and that was a good bit of money because those are unable to be stolen from you by another player. And then flat Tel Var. Now Tel Var, in the way that I convert it, is, and I have a whole video on this, is worth about 4 gold to every actual Tel Var crystal. And that is if you combine it with a Kuda and then turn it into the prismatic ruins. And I highly recommend that you do that because those enchantments will always sell very well because most people don't farm Tel Var. If you take all that into consideration, all the key fragments, all the intricate weapons, everything, you'll be running between about 40 to 60k gold an hour on average, with the potential to get a lot more, but also significantly less. So I would say the range is probably between 20 and 80k, but it's a good 40 to 60k method for those of you who have this expansion. I believe it's even free now to all players, whereas it didn't used to be like that. So it is now free to players to use. So is this a good money-making method? It could be. You know, some people like it. If you loved the wilds and RuneScape and the wilderness, I think this is the method for you because it keeps you on your toes. You're not bored during any of it because you constantly are alert and paying attention. Gives you some good loot, gives you some key fragments, some actual Tel Var crystals, which you can use to purchase a plethora of things. And overall, I would say it was decently fun. I know that I've been ragging on it a whole bunch, but at the end of the day, it was kind of fun to go through the Imperial City sewers again and fight the flag bosses multiple times, even though I strongly suggest that you avoid those things. I would say it was fun. Now, gold per hour, how does it stack up? Not very great. But at the end of the day, it's not always about what's the most effective way. It's just about learning and seeing how things are done and is it worth doing for you. And I would say that the Imperial City sewers and the Imperial City as a whole doesn't really get done for money. People don't really run this for money as often as they do for other things. And there are other ways to run this, you know, assassination as a Nightblade. You can do the same kind of thing that we were doing on the surface, but going around killing world bosses. It was difficult to do because of how many people were on the server. If you do those things, it is possible to get it at a faster click. The issue is if there's other people killing the world bosses like there were other people killing the sewers. And there's really only 2 instances now of the Imperial City sewers, where there used to be more than that. So you really start to kind of struggle to really find some areas that you can have to yourself, even just between your own alliance. So that's a little piece of concern for you. And that's why I'm comfortable kind of slapping it down as a decently average thing to do. Very fun. It does require a little more skill than even I probably possess. To run efficiently, because my setup was much more oriented towards the focus of a PvE. Let's just go in, drop some AoEs, kill these things quickly, and keep it moving. Whereas, you know, there are people who can make more Tel Var as a Nightblade, going around assassinating players and whatnot. If you're playing during a high active time like I am right now, currently on a Friday evening. So maybe that could be the method for you. But other than that, I think I've covered everything I want to for this gold making method explained and Tel Var grinding guide. So if you have any questions, some people have put some comments in the videos of things that they want next. If you want any video made for you to explain any ESO topic, I will do my best I can to make a guide on it, because I want to just give you the content and answer the questions that you have. That is my only goal, and I want to do that for you guys, excuse me. So, any guides that you want, you put in the comments, I'll make them. But until then, fellas, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.